I also think you have to be off the charts competitive. You have to be. If the coach isn't the most competitive person on the team, then there's a problem. So you've got to be off the charts competitive. And typically, if you are off the charts competitive, typically, you're going to be off the charts with your work ethic too. I don't know how you can have one and not the other.
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
Welcome to the Leave It Better podcast. Today, my guest is Julie Jenkins. She's the head coach at Trinity University in Texas. She is the victory leader in Division III, I believe, and I'm going to go on this, 1,080 wins. Oh my God, that's a lot of wins. She's been recognized as the AVCA Division III National Coach of the Year twice. The latest time was in 2022. She's entering her 40th season as the head coach there. Some numbers. She's been the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference Coach of the Year 16 times. My goodness. AVCA Coach of the Year 9 times. Her team has competed in 2 NCAA national runner-up or semifinals in 22 and 1999. She has taken her program, her team, to 4 Final Fours, 9 NCAA quarterfinals, 18 Sweet 16s, and won a whopping 21 Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference championships. And we are so excited to have you on today. We're going to talk about some things, what makes Julie Jenkins the teacher coach she is today. And we have some history. We're going to bring something special that just happened to her not that long ago. We're going to talk about some of the unique keys that she has in achieving her success that you all may want to adopt into your program, and ways that she's left things better. And it seems that that's happened quite a bit. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you for having me, Janice.
First off, I ran into the video of you receiving the AVCA National Coach of the Year, the interview they did there. And I believe that's the same time you were talking about Debbie Hill being in the crowd there. And the American Volleyball Coaches Association recognizes coaches each year. And in that season, you were the National Coach of the Year. Can we talk a little bit about your beginnings? You know, Debbie Hill is someone that's near and dear to my heart and has been a huge influence on women's volleyball. How lucky you are to have played for her at William & Mary.
Yeah, Debbie Hill and my tennis coach, Millie West. I had 2 really good coaches in college, just fantastic coaches that were good at what they did. They're super passionate and just made it, even more fun for you to participate in those sports. And going off to college, I had no idea that I would go into coaching. I really had intended to be a business major. Debbie Hill, I think, when you play for her, you just realized just how much fun she really enjoyed in her career and how well she inspired people. And, I started having the thought in the back of my mind, gosh, I think I might like to coach. And, I was lucky, throughout high school, which was right when Title IX came around. I just had really good coaches at the high school level. And when I look back on it, I'm amazed that I had as strong a coach in basketball, volleyball, tennis. And then that continued in college. I was really fortunate. And Millie West at the time was the athletic director for women's sports, because we were in the AIAW, the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, because the NCAA didn't start sponsoring women's sports until around 81, 82, I believe. Anyway, but, I just had some just incredible coaches, and Debbie Hill, made it fun. She was very hardworking. We were successful, and I think that's what put the thought in my mind that, gosh, maybe I should coach. And at the convention, when she was there, I just can't even tell you that I almost, I thought, I don't need to go.
Oh, dear.
That award. I thought, you're so sick of traveling at that point with your season. I almost didn't go. And when I did go, and she texted me and said, JJ, where are you? And I'm like, what are you doing here? And so when I was able to visit with her, I mean, it almost was like it came full circle, and for her to be there, first of all, for me to see her receive her award, she was honored as a Title IX pioneer for women's volleyball. That was special. And then to receive my award and her to be there, I was just so beside myself.
Yeah.
So it was special for sure. Debbie Hill just really influenced so many lives. It's unbelievable. And I will tell you, there was one other thing that was very special about that banquet. I wasn't the only former player of Debbie Hill to receive National Coach of the Year. The coach at San Diego, she received her National Coach of the Year honor. So Debbie's here. She is sitting at the convention. Here are two of her players receiving National Coach of the Year. It just blows my mind. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Jen Petrie at the University of San Diego. What's interesting about that is, I was going to ask you if you knew her. She was one of those William and Mary players that when I was at Maryland, who was just a pain in the butt to play against. She was so amazing and so good, and she's not very big. But her heart and her competitive spirit was off the charts.
Right.
And being guided by such a famous coach as Debbie Hill, that's a really cool thing for Debbie Hill. I'm going to have to reach out to her and have a little conversation about that. I'm sure now, you've been coaching. Is this going into your 40th season?
Yes. It is.
Holy goodness, Julie.
Really blows my mind. So we had camp this past week. And I always love camp, especially our college prospect camp, because you're just so excited about your team. They're working the camp. All your first years are participating in the camp. And after day one, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do a week. But I got my energy going and made it through. But it requires a lot of energy, that's for sure. If you want to do it well, you've got to be just as passionate as you were, 40 years ago. And I feel like I have. I've been really lucky to have, my health, I'm able to give that kind of energy and work, put in those hours. And, I've always said that, I do this for a reason. I do it because I love it. And if I'm not absolutely loving it, then I'm not going to keep doing it. But I do. I really have. I've just been lucky that I have had the energy to do it this many years. And, it's a different makeup of players every year. It's a different challenge, and different challenge on how to relate to the players and motivate them. Every team is different, and I feel so fortunate that I've been able to make a career out of this. And the fact that it has been 40 years, wow,
it can't even sink in, right?
Gosh, to say that it's been 40 years. I remember one of my first years at Trinity, the athletic director that hired me was also the football coach back then. This was in 1985. And I remember asking him how long he'd been there, and he'd been there for 35 years. And I remember thinking, that absolutely crazy. And now, I think you're so lucky when you find a profession that you're just totally passionate about. And I'm so happy I made the decision to coach, number one. And number two, I'm happy that I stayed at Trinity.
Oh,
We had a losing record every year for 5 years, my first 5 years, and it was rough. I love those players, and I'm still in contact with those players. They gave their all, and it was still fun. But I came really close to leaving, and so glad I didn't. But that was when club volleyball had just come around. It was possible to get out and actually recruit. In those first years, there was no club volleyball, and it was difficult to recruit.
yeah. How have times changed?
Yeah, they should. Even just the recruiting club volleyball is so different than even it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
Used to go to Vegas. That was always a big tournament over President's Weekend, and you probably went to 15 different high schools. It wasn't all under one roof. It was nothing but a huge headache. It was tough. Go here, go there. Oh God, they're not playing. Go on to the next high school. It was just, things are much, much easier now. They're so much easier now.
Yes, I remember those days. Now they have President's Day tournaments everywhere. And now you have to figure out which one you're going to go to. So you mentioned, 40 years coaching. Is that at Trinity, or that's total coaching years?
Total is 41. I was at Virginia Commonwealth University, and I was so lucky to get my foot in the door. Like I said, I realized in college that I wanted to coach. And so when I graduated from college, I needed to get a graduate assistant position in coaching. And I thought, I think I'd like to stay in Virginia or in the area, maybe North Carolina, Virginia. And I was not able to get a graduate assistantship in coaching. I took one in recreation at James Madison University, tried to gain a little of experience coaching. I was at a high school there called Spotswood High School, coached volleyball, JV volleyball there. But I had a very completely unusual path to coaching. I did not train under anyone, and I did not know what I was doing. I was very competitive. I was very passionate. I was very hardworking, but I didn't know squat. And I got the interim position at Virginia Commonwealth University. I had been playing on a women's USAV, back then it was USVBA, adult team, and Wendy Wadsworth was the coach back then, and the longtime coach at George Washington, what's her name? Pat
Sullivan.
I think it's Sullivan, yeah.
She was my college coach.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
We all played on a team together, and Wendy recommended me for the interim position. She was going to finish her doctorate. So it was just a interim position at Virginia Commonwealth. And they were in the Sun Belt Conference back then. And I was very fortunate. I inherited a really good team from Wendy. We went on and won the Sun Belt Conference Championship. It was the first conference championship for that program at VCU. But again, I inherited a great team. And from there, I went to Trinity. And I interviewed with Trinity because I knew of Trinity because of their tennis. Trinity back then was number 1, number 2 in the country with Stanford in Division I tennis.
Okay.
We're number 2 in the country when I went there. But I knew of Trinity. But when I came and interviewed, I saw a lot of similarities with Trinity as I saw at William and Mary. And that's what attracted me, to taking that job. And I've been there ever since. So, yeah, I've actually just finished my 40th year of coaching, but 40 will be at Trinity next year.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it is a lifestyle. It is something you have to have passion about. And the fact that you get to have kind of a new team every year was something I just it kept it fresh because you had new challenges. But I can relate to all those things that you're saying there. So
Yeah.
let's go a little bit into just some of the things that are kind of unique to you, possibly, that are general strategies for how you had so much success. And let's talk a little bit about some of those strategies that you might have that would help people today if they're considering getting into the field.
Number one, you need to be a people person. If you're going to go into coaching, you need to be a people person. You got to have the right personality. And I don't always see that. I'll see some coaches most coaches, I think, do have the right personality, but I'll see some coaches that I just don't think it's a right fit for their profession. But I think you really genuinely need to enjoy the relationships, genuinely. Whether it's your coaching staff, whether it's your players, whether it's your colleagues within the department that you work for, you've got to enjoy those relationships, build those relationships. So having the right personality, I think, is important. I also think you have to be off the charts competitive. You have to be. If the coach isn't the most competitive person on the team, then there's a problem. So you've got to be off the charts competitive. And typically, if you are off the charts competitive, you're going to be off the charts with your work ethic too. I don't know how you can have one and not the other. I really did not know anything about coaching. I just knew I really wanted to do it and fake it until you make it. That really applied to me early on in my career. But I think that if you have the right personality and if you are extremely hardworking and you are competitive, there is no reason you can't be successful. So, if you're super competitive, you're going to go to every coaching clinic you can possibly go to. You're going to ask questions. You're going to come up with your own way of coaching. There's not only one way of teaching setting or teaching blocking. There's no one right way. You've got to know why you're doing things the way you're doing them, why. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then you're going to have a hard time explaining that to your players. And I also think you have to be very open-minded. I learn from my players. I learn from my assistant coaches. I have always done that throughout my career. It's never my way or the highway. We're all in this together, and we learn from each other. And you've got to be willing to grow, be open-minded and grow. And I'm still doing that today. We get AVCA videos. I watch a ton of them. Some of them I like. Maybe there's one little thing I like here, little thing I like there. I'm always kind of polishing my key words too. Yeah. There's something that a setter is mechanically, they're not doing something you need them to do. How do you say it and still get the end result? And there's so many different ways of telling them keywords to help them.
Yeah.
But I think being competitive, being hardworking, being open and growing, you've got to grow as a coach every single year. And then I think another huge, huge part of it is you have to make it fun. It has to be fun. If you're not having fun, they're not going to have fun. If you can make fun of them, they've got to be able to make fun of you. And respectfully make fun. I'm very mindful on how I talk to my players. Mm-hmm. It has to be respectful. It's never degrading. It's never even in a joking way degrading. Never. Don't talk politics with my team. I'm not their therapist, but I am going to get them the help that they need. I'm not worried about being their best friend either. I'm not worried about them liking me. I think if you show that you like them and you care about them and you genuinely are looking out for their back, they're going to reciprocate. And I really do try to make it a family atmosphere, especially as a college coach. I think it's so very important to remain connected to your players. Your alumni, I think it's huge that you remain connected. I want to remain connected because I adore my players. I adore my current and my past players. I want to remain in touch.
Yeah.
I have to do it, and it's a lot of work to do it. So that networking with your alumni, I also think is really, really important. Let them come back. Let them talk to your team about their careers. And, do they have internships for, we do a weekly, not weekly, but probably bi-monthly newsletter. We're the Trinity Tigers. So this is called the Tiger Times. And obviously I'm a New Yorker, so the New York Times, we got to have it. But we always have an alumni spotlight on there.
Oh.
I will ask them, okay, this person has their own law firm, or this person is whatever it is that they may do. Do they offer internships? And our players a lot of times will reach out and try to get an internship with our alumni.
That's amazing, Julie. That's amazing. I love that newsletter. I love the connectedness you have with the alumni and how that can expose your kids.
Yeah.
Because they were there.
The other thing, I think, for success, you need to have those qualities, that the type of person where you are a people person, being competitive, off the charts work ethic, and make it fun, and do make it a family atmosphere. I think it's important too that you express to your team each year what your ultimate goals are for your players. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with their volleyball goals. And we do set team goals, individual goals at the start of every season. But I think your ultimate goal for anyone that comes into your program, what is it? And you need to express it, to your players. And, my ultimate goal for our players always, and I tell them this at the start of every season, that I am here to help them expand and build even more on certain qualities, their confidence. How ambitious are they? How strong would they consider themselves to be? And are you a happy individual? Most of them that come here, they are confident, ambitious, strong, happy women, but we want to continue on that path. And if they haven't been on that path, help put them on that path. We want them more than ever, more than they've ever been through after their 4 years. Are they at a whole new high, a whole new level of confidence, being ambitious, being strong, being a strong individual, and happy. That is my ultimate goal with our players, and I call that cash.
Cash.
Nothing to do with money. To me, happiness, really does have a lot to do with your self-esteem, your confidence, how ambitious you're going to be day in, day out. You're going to continue to be ambitious 10 years from now. You're going to continue to be ambitious 30 years from now. So to me, being confident, ambitious, strong, happy women, if they are feeling that way after their 4 years at Trinity, I feel like I've done my job. Those kinds of things matter to me, and I'm taking notice of it also. Something's off with somebody. We're off, privately. We're going to have a chat on what I can do to help them, because your college years are very, very happy years, but they're also stressful years because you're not sure what path you're going to take. And, it can be really challenging mentally. So to me, I think your players have to know that you genuinely care about them. You treat them as if they're your own daughters, that you're going to always look out for their well-being.
You're trying to build confidence in them, and they do come in pretty confident if they're coming into your program because you have such a successful program. What would be some examples of things that you might do as a coach that help in that area for some of your players?
Well, a lot of them, they have no idea how great they are, how ahead of the game they are from the average person. And a lot of this, the confidence is, are you going to build yourself up with your strengths, or are you going to bring yourself down because you have some weaknesses? Everybody has weaknesses. I have weaknesses. We all do. And are you going to, give yourself more pats on the back because of your strengths? And so when we have players, we're constantly trying to point out, wow, you do this so well.
Are there any things that you do that help build your team's confidence in terms of their abilities or their potential?
Well, there's a number of things. So another trait I think that's really important for coaching is you have to be organized, like very organized, very detail oriented. And I am extremely detail oriented. But at the beginning of the seasons, in the preseasons, we do go over what the expectations are. Expectations training and practice, expectations competing. This is expectations on and off the court. I think that for your players to get the most out of themselves, get the most out of each other, have that positive, culture that you want to build in every program, it starts with spelling out the expectations, number one. We're just not going to all of a sudden learn along the way, this is what happens, when somebody does this, or this is what happens when somebody does that. You need to discuss these things right from the beginning. And I think as a coach, it is extremely important that you hold the standard that you're setting. You hold everybody accountable in the same way. You cannot treat a freshman different than you're treating the senior. Everybody's got to be held to the same standard. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget this. This was recent. And these two players know that I love them. I adore them. Off the charts, adore them. But they were always pushing the envelope for being on time, always. They would never quite be late, but they would literally come down to like 30 seconds. And they were always pushing the envelope. And they were in their 5th year, and they walking into practice, and they were 2 minutes late. And I made them be a ball shagger for the rest of practice, which is what the penalty is if you come in late. And the freshmen on the team, their eyes got real big when I said so-and-so and so-and-so, you're going to be ball shaggers. And the freshmen looked at me like they could not believe that I was going to do that and we were getting ready to go to NCAA regionals.
Oh, gosh.
But I said this with a smile on my face. I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't talking to them in a snarky tone. I just said, hey, you guys know what happens when you're late. So this is you. You're going to be ball shaggers. And those two made it the most fun situation they could have made it. They were like, fine, coach, we're going to be the best ball shaggers you've ever had in your entire career. And they made it fun. So you have to make it fun. You have to make it fun, whether there's a little mini conflict brewing, you got to take care of it. And to me, that sent a message to the team that we're holding everybody the same standard. But anyway, moving on. So I also think it has to do with how you treat people too. And it starts with the coaches. You can't expect the players to have each other's back and to be positive with each other if all of a sudden I'm having a different tone to my voice because somebody's being, I think, maybe lazy in practice, or maybe they're high error and they're not making the right adjustment on certain errors. They're having two maybe identical type errors. They never made an adjustment. Maybe I'm frustrated with how they're playing and I'm showing my frustration with how they're playing. That just doesn't cut it. Your players are going to start showing their frustration, and it's going to affect the team chemistry. You have to remain positive and confident and upbeat regardless. That does not mean I'm not going to have a conversation with that player privately off to the side. Hey, this is what I'd like to see different. Those conversations typically go pretty well, and I typically will see a change. Because in my program, and in most coaches' program, it's not about making mistakes. Mistakes are part of the game. It's more about making adjustments and what type of mistakes are they? They
Sure.
sloppy fundamentally, that's lack of focus, that kind of thing. But we also, I have an assistant coach, Maggie Linker, who played for me.
Yeah.
was captain on our team and led our team to the NCAA semifinals in 2019. Really great person. Right out of college, she took a job with HumanX, and they do team leadership training, mental toughness training. And so she had been doing that for a couple of years. And then I persuaded her to be a volunteer coach on our coaching staff, and she did. But we also have our team through HumanX do personality characteristic evaluation. How competitive are you? How coachable are you? And there's like about 7 or 8 traits. And they will answer questions, and we will be able to see on a scale how competitive are they. Are you competitive? Are you a high achiever? How coachable are you? There's a number of them. And not everyone's going to be off the charts high competitive. Typically, if they're not, they will be a high achiever. Now, if they're not a high achiever and they're not competitive, I didn't do a good job recruiting. They are usually one or the other. But it helps us learn the best way to motivate that player.
Okay.
If they're not off the charts competitive, I'm not going to motivate them by challenging them to beat out maybe another person, maybe on an opponent. Hey, I think you can outplay this player. We're not going to have that kind of conversation with her, because it's going to be more raising her own individual bar, not in relationship to somebody else. It's different on how you're going to motivate and challenge a high achiever versus super competitive player.
That's a great resource.
How you train, how you push your players to build their skills is extremely important. But dealing with the dynamics on your team is equally important.
Sure. If you have competitive kids, you have high achievers, and your team has a pretty good setback, or, maybe they didn't quite reach where they thought they should have. Is that something your training also helps them in being able to understand that's a value to them, to know what areas they need to improve on, or maybe that particular situation?
Absolutely. This goes back to, I'm very detail oriented. So once a week, as the season goes on, we have a chart that we share with the team. And it's kind of like our state of affairs at the start of every week. How many points are we earning? And what is our goal? What's the standard? Where have we raised the bar? What bar have we raised that to for this coming season? How many points are we giving up? Are we meeting our goal for that week? And then we will break it down, hitting errors, reception errors, ace to error ratio, kills per set, all of those, things that add up to the points earned and points given. And I make it very clear to them what the standard is if you want to be a championship level team. And at the bottom of that scale, I have the last 3 years, the Division III champion, what they were doing in each of these categories, how many kills per set, how many aces per set. And so at the end of our season, we are identifying the areas that we improved on the most, continue to make those focus. But we're also identifying the areas that are the difference maker and why we didn't win. Like, for example, we lost in the quarterfinals this past season. Well, why was that? And what was the difference maker?
In your experience, and as you were developing your coaching philosophies and all those things, is there a moment or an experience at which you realize the importance of leaving things better than what you found? Was that ever something that was going, you're driven by that, coaching and improving people, it tends to be fall in that area. We're going to leave things better.
Early on in my career, I knew I had a lot to learn. And like I said, I was going to a lot of coaching clinics, and I clearly remember this day that I approached a coach that I thought was pretty successful and basically was asking for feedback on a couple things. And this individual really was not very open to sharing. Mm. And that's okay. That's okay. We continued to have a cordial professional relationship. But from that moment on, I always remember saying to myself that anytime a coach reaches out to me and they want help with something, whether it's technical training, whether it's recruiting, whether it's team dynamics, I am going to take the time to give back and take the time to help out these younger coaches. And it gives me a lot of joy to do that. And because I did not have it, but at the same time, like I said to you, I had so many great coaches, Debbie Hill, Millie West in college, and then my coaches in high school that I really mimicked a lot of them. But technically, I needed help. Helping coaches and being open to that and taking the time to do that. It's not just simply being open to it. It's, are you willing to take the time?
One of my favorite things about being a volleyball coach and in those early years, we're probably similar age, is I absolutely loved going to like coaching camps or just the sharing ideas with people or going to clinics and trying to learn some things. And, one of the things that for me that I think I always did pretty good is I could see somebody's take their advice and look at what was really working for them and not just copy it, but put it into me and into, right. My philosophy that way. It seems as though that's something that you have done very well as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I will be, it doesn't matter where you are, you're off watching a high school game, you're off watching another college game, or you're on TV, or I'm out recruiting. I will constantly write down notes. Ooh, I like that. I like that play they ran in row 2. You pick and choose things that you think can help your program. But you have to know why you're doing what you're doing and, why you do it that. But yeah, it's all about sharing. 99% of the coaches that they want to share and they want to grow the sport and grow their conference. The better teams get in your conference, the better that is for you. We're all pushing each other to be better. Yeah, it's a great network of coaches. Holy cow, we've got so many good coaches.
I read this the other day. It was talking about witnessing growth of your team and team development. And one of the things, as a coach, no trophy ever replaces the feeling you have when your team is experiencing their potential in real time. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, I can remember those when you're sitting there and it's just like, you're just like smiling, you got goosebumps and it's happening and it's right before your eyes. And are there any of those, can you remember a time where that feeling struck you?
One, I will never, ever forget. And I'm not going to say which school because I have a lot of respect for this school. But we were in the conference championship and we were down 2-0 and we reverse swept to beat this team for our conference championship, which I think most coaches at some point or another have been involved in a reverse sweep. But when you do it in a conference championship with so much on the line and the automatic qualifier and all that, makes it that much more special. So that was unique just in itself. But the very next weekend, we're at the NCAA Regional Championship. And we are in the Regional Championship. I'm pretty sure it's the Regional Championship. And we are playing the very same team, and we're down 0-2 again. We were swept again.
Oh my God.
And I can remember screaming at my team in a very positive way. After we were down 0-2, something along the lines, don't you dare think we can't do this again. We are going to do this again. Let's get it going. And so that was special. And I just knew it was almost like destiny. And, you just knew. You knew on both of those, as soon as you won set 3, you were winning the match, even though it was a long ways from over.
Is there any quote or saying that you use often or you have found really relates with your team?
Well, it's funny, Janice, you find that your players start talking like you. And they will start using, your verbiage. And I'm constantly telling them to get it going, get it going. Let's go, in practice, let's get it going. And so that is a constant state all the time. And they'll say to me, Coach, get it going, Coach.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Really, your coaching philosophy and just the way you approach this it seems really exceptional. And your player, no wonder you have so much success. And your players can follow you fairly easily. Like you have your family, basically, is what I was hearing, is that volleyball family. And I wish you the best of luck this year. And I'm going to keep track of you and what's going on.
I've got one more story to share with you.
Okay.
Once we stop recording, if you want.
Okay.
It has to do with my proudest moment at Trinity.
Oh, let's keep recording. This is good stuff, Julie. Proudest moment.
My absolute proudest moment at Trinity has to do with one of my players that was just having to deal with the worst circumstances possible. And it had to do with how are we going to help her cope and how are we going to welcome her back onto campus. And her name is Catherine Found, and she's from Iowa City, Iowa. And they made a movie about her family. It was with William Hurt and Helen Hunt. It was called...
We were just talking about this movie.
It was a volleyball movie. Without getting emotional and going into great detail, Catherine lost 2 family members within a 2-week period prior to the preseason of her senior year. She had just returned to campus. It was unimaginable for a 19, 20-year-old to lose their mom and lose their sister, and how are we going to help her? So our whole focus for that season was on what can we do to help Catherine. I asked my athletic director if it was okay if I emailed our president of the university, and I basically told him what was going on. And we weren't sure if Catherine was going to come back. Maybe she was going to take the semester off, but if she did come, we had to do something to welcome her, with a big embrace when she got back onto campus. And so I emailed our president, and he said, yeah, we can do it. And so I think we printed up maybe 3,000 T-shirts, something like this. Purple T-shirts for pancreatic cancer. And on the front, it said Team Found, which was her last name. And on the back was number 9, which was the number she wore and her sister wore. She comes walking into the gym, and we were playing a nationally ranked team that night. It was a team from Wisconsin. And we had that gym filled to the capacity. I think our gym holds maybe 5,000 people. And I've never seen it like this. It was, the stands were full, the railings were full, and we had this on a live, our Tiger Network, a live stream. I told her father and her brother about it, and they both flew in. When Catherine came out, and we had everybody show up early so you'd be in the gym when the team was warming up, they were there in the gym, and it was a roar like never heard. I mean, it blew my mind. And every faculty, every administrator, every student, they were there. anyway, the bright part about all this is not only did that lift her up, but it lifted her up every day throughout her senior year, because every day she walked on campus, we gave out so many of these shirts that every day she saw somebody wearing that shirt on her way to class. So it made her feel good, that this is a small school that really did embrace this tragedy and help, just show our support and love for her. So that really helped her through her senior year. And then she took a couple years off before she went on to vet school. She's now a veterinarian, doing great. And I would constantly say, I'm still seeing those T-shirts, Catherine. 5 years later, I'm still seeing those T-shirts. And then 7 years later, they make this movie. Then advance forward, I think the movie had only been out maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And this was 2019, I believe. We are going to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And everything's a whirlwind. You don't even know if you're going. So I didn't really have time to reach out to Catherine and her dad, which are there in Iowa City, which is really close. And it ends up, we get off our team bus, we're going to the hotel, and who's sitting in the lobby but Catherine and her fiance and her father. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And they go, well, you don't realize it, but the facility that you're playing in is the facility my sister played in, and the facility where she won her state championship, and the facility where they filmed that movie. And I was like, oh, wow. No. And so the story just kept going on. I just thought that was so ironic that here we were. And it just made me so proud of Trinity and the effort they made to help her get through such a horrific time in her life. And our bond is like no other. And it was just really something that we played there. She saw us win a match. We lost in the semis, but we had made it, we had won the quarterfinal match. So it was just a happy time. And without a doubt, my most proud moment at Trinity, getting the entire campus to rally around one of our student athletes. So it was incredible.
Wow. It's funny that you are here today, and you said that we just had a retreat here at the Side Out Foundation, and we were talking about that movie, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of it either.
Yeah, so, it's stuff like that, you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, what do you do? What do you do? And there's just, you can't change the circumstances, but you can try to show your love.
The connection is outstanding, amazing, really. Well, Julie, I appreciate sharing your life with us.
Thank you to you, and I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank you for listening. Please share your feedback with us at side-out.org.